Call to order this hearing of the Senate Taxes Committee. It is Thursday, April 23rd at 8:42 a.m. A quorum is present. Members have the minutes from Tuesday, April 21st, birthday of Rome, for those who celebrate. Are there any corrections or additions? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as presented. The first bill before us today is Senate File 2766. Senator Hauschild. Senator Hauschild, is this the first hearing of this bill?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Senator Hauschild offers the A1 amendment. It is an author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion prevails, and the DE amendment is before us. Senator Hauschild.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I appreciate the opportunity to once again present the 2026 Minerals article. This bill is about preparing for a once-in-a-generation moment on the Iron Range. For the first time in almost 50 years, we have the opportunity for a new taconite iron ore mine to open on the Iron Range. And this is a big deal in our region. Many of you have heard about some of the economic challenges that we have faced on the Iron Range with some idled mines in the East Range, as well as recent news that we received of a manufacturing plant laying off an additional 75 workers on the Iron Range in Senator Farnsworth's district. So given this new mine for the first time in 50 years, it's critical that we get the distribution of the production taxes right from the start before the mine is open. And I want to emphasize, Madam Chair and members, that this is a united effort. It's not always the case that the Iron Range delegation comes together to agree on things, particularly when it comes to our mineral taxation. However, this is also one of the first times I think that we've seen a bipartisan group of Iron Range delegation members come together to support a mineral article that supports our region from west to east range. I want to specifically thank Senator Farnsworth for joining me up here on this proposal and working together on this mineral article. And I also want to thank Madam Chair for allowing him to sit up here, which is quite a bit different than our traditions here in the Senate Tax Committee. But I think it is a good showing for our region and showing the bipartisan support. At its core, this is a bill about a policy decision to direct production taxes towards our schools on the Iron Range. Our schools on the Iron Range, as well as all across the state of Minnesota, and particularly in our rural communities, are facing real challenges right now. We have a reduction in population and students in our schools. We have more and more parents deciding on homeschooling. We have PSEO that is taking funding away from some of our local schools. And of course, rising transportation costs and just the additional challenges that come with serving a wide school district that many of ours have in our region. This bill helps us tackle some of those challenges. It's also important to be clear that this bill does not raise taxes. This bill is simply about distributing the proceeds of an existing structure of a tax level on our mines, in particular as it relates to the Mesabi Metallics mine. And it's also important to note that a reminder, and I know many of you have heard us talk about this time and time again over the years, but production taxes are in lieu of local corporate property taxes. So much like in the Twin Cities with 3M or Target or Cargill or the many corporations that are headquartered in the Twin Cities, this is simply a way that we tax our corporations in northern Minnesota and on the Iron Range in lieu of us collecting our own local property taxes. So this is not to be confused with the corporate tax structure statewide. The primary beneficiaries of this bill are, like I said, our schools, but also our townships and small cities across the Iron Range. As the only Iron Range senator on the tax committee, I take my responsibility very seriously as it relates to our mineral articles and our mineral taxation. And that's why, Madam Chair, I'm pleased to present this bill before you. And now I will walk through the sections of the bill.
Thank you.
Section 1.
Senator Hauschild?
Yes.
First, I would like to welcome Senator Farnsworth. Thank you for being with us. It is highly unusual, but as you are a co-author on the bill, whether you know it or not, you are. Senator Hauschild was very persuasive about how important it was for you to join him this morning. So Senator Hauschild, now if you will take us through your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Section 1, this establishes a guaranteed minimum distribution for 2 years after the Mesabi Metallic begins production, and it uses 2023 distribution levels as the baseline for schools, cities, and key accounts. And as of right now, it requires the shortfall to be backfilled by the Doug Johnson Economic Protection Trust Fund. Madam Chair, it's important to note that Senator Farnsworth and other Iron Range delegation members have been talking about that provision, and there may be potential changes in the future on the use of the Doug Johnson Fund. I just want to put that on the record. So lines 1.5 to 1.14 maintains production levels at the formula tied to 42 million tons. Lines 2.4 to 2.16 guarantees the school district payments. Lines 2.22 to 2.27 fixes payments to specific cities, and lines 2.28 to 3.12 has that trust fund backfill mechanism that I just described. Section 2, lines 4.14 to 4.16 prohibits Mesabi Metallics from receiving distributions from the Taconite Economic Development Fund. This is a fund that is used on the Iron Range where mining companies pay a production tax, and it's returned back to those companies for various upgrades, equipment, and other things that they need to do with their mine. And it's usually in agreement with the local steelworker union of that mine. Because this is a new mine and billions are being spent to produce this new mine, it was the Iron Range delegation's opinion that there wasn't a need for this fund to be attributed to the Mesabi Metallics project. Section 3, this is the city and town allocation. Lines 4.18 to 4.22 is a 1 cent per ton contribution adjustment for Mesabi Metallics to cities and towns. Lines 5.1 to 5.7 adds unorganized townships to eligible recipients. Section 4, the Taconite Municipal Aid Account, lines 5.23 to 5.30 adjust the contribution levels for cities and towns from 12.5 to 14.83 cents per taxable ton. Line 6.23 to 6.27 increases township cap.
Excuse me, Senator
Yes, Madam Chair.
How is that number derived to make it go from 12.5 to 14.83? Is there a formula or?
Madam Chair, I guess I may not be understanding kind of the specifics of your question. Like, how is the overall formula created, or?
Well, you're striking 12.5 cents.
Yes.
Per taxable ton and increasing it to 14.83. I'm just asking how, I mean, or
Oh,
why?
sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So because we removed the Taconite Economic Development Fund, that is about, I believe it's 25.1 cents per ton. And so that opens up some additional cents per ton for us to distribute elsewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Line 6.23 to 6.27 increases the township cap from 50,000 to 70,000. Section 5, this is the school district distribution. This just adjusts per ton contributions, creates some targeted payments for specific districts, which I'll get to, and expands the building maintenance funding. So line 7.10 to 7.14 distributes $100,000 each to the Ely and Chisholm school districts. You'll note that those are in Senator Farnsworth and I's district. What a happenstance. Lines 8.4 to 8.9 target the Mesabi distributions, $150,000 to Grand Rapids School District and Ely School District. Additional per ton funding to Greenway and Nashwauk-Keewatin schools as well. Lines 8.13 to 8.17 is an additional 4 cents per ton to that account. Section 6. This is the Iron Range Schools and Community Development account. This allocates 20 cents per ton through 2050. Lines 10.16 to 10.22 directs funding to the Greenway referendum, to a Greenway referendum approved project for 5 years, and expands the use of that fund for community development, which is sort of a technical change because we also did that, I believe, in the 2024 minerals article in a different section.
Senator Hauschild,
Yes.
Is the referendum there conducted then by the school district?
That's correct, Madam Chair. And the Iron Range Resources and the IRRB would work with them on sort of distributing those funds for that referendum if they're able to move forward with that. Section 7, lines 11.16 to 11.18 exempts Mesabi Metallics from contributing to RAMS, the Range Association of Municipalities and Schools. And this decision was made given the existing strong support that the RAMS organization receives from other taconite mines. And we increased that funding, Madam Chair, you may remember, in the 2024 minerals article. Section 8, again, the Taconite Economic Development Fund changes. This exempts Mesabi from contributing to that fund. So this is just another sort of area where that change is made. Section 9 is technical in nature, just justifies some contribution changes. Section 10, this is that backfill provision related to the Doug Johnson Fund that we talked about earlier that we may make changes to in the future. Section 11, this is sort of the remainder distribution, and lines 13.14 to 13.16 increases school share of legacy distributions from 62% to 75%. That impacts specific school districts via that fund. Section 12, this is the municipal aid distribution, lines 13.26 to 13.29, establishes fixed payments to cities. Specifically, Madam Chair, it distributes $25,000 to the communities of Orr and Winton, and $75,000 to the communities of Cook and Two Harbors. Section 13 is the effective date. It ties implementation of this to the production start of the mine. That's on line 14.14 to 14.4. And then lines 14.4 to 14.7 require certification by the Commissioner of Revenue. So, Madam Chair, that is the entire minerals article. And with that, I am open to testimony and questions.
Senator Hauschild, we're going to invite Senator Farnsworth to speak to the bill first before we go to questions. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to sit here today with Senator Hauschild and show that there is, in fact, peace in the valley with the range delegation. And in both bodies, there has been discussions about this, and the provisions have all been agreed upon with the possible changes that Senator Hauschild made in regards to the Doug Johnson Fund. So again, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here and also to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Thank you.
Brownie points, Madam Chair.
Are there comments or questions for Senator Hauschild or Senator Farnsworth? Anyone? I guess you slipped one by us, Senator Hauschild.
Madam Chair, I believe there was a testifier. I don't know if.
Well, no, I
Okay.
was just
Just wanna
asking
make sure,
for
yeah.
questions from the members. We do have Mr. Charles Sutton from Mesabi Metallics. Welcome to the committee. If you would state your name for the record.
Thank you, Chair Rest. Charles Sutton, as you mentioned, here on behalf of Mesabi Metallics. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. Mesabi Metallics is an iron ore mine and pellet plant project based in Nashwauk, Minnesota. Our project is in the late stages of construction, and we have approximately 850 union building trades construction workers on site building out the final stages of the project. Mesabi Metallics owners, the SR Group, have invested over $2 billion in private capital in the project, and once completed, the project will represent a $2.5 billion facility and will be one of the largest private sector investments in the state's history. When we enter production, we will be, as Senator Hauschild noted, the first new mine and pellet plant on the Iron Range in almost 50 years. We will also be the first to produce entirely direct reduction grade pellets. This means our pellets will not be consumed by blast furnaces to make steel. Rather, they will serve as feedstock for electric arc furnace steelmaking with significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. We are also implementing state-of-the-art technology to reduce environmental impacts. We will be the first mine in Minnesota not to discharge, process, or industrial stormwater. We will also be the first mine to implement activated carbon injection technology to capture and sequester mercury. We are also utilizing electrified mining equipment, as well as 400-ton haul trucks, the largest in North America. Mesabi takes our responsibility to the community seriously, and we have made serious and significant efforts to work with local governments, NGOs, and sovereign tribal governments. We have been honored to host a wide array of guests at the mine, including both Senators Hauschild and Farnsworth, and we thank them for their support of our project. We understand the purpose of this bill is to provide additional support to local school districts, townships, and other municipalities. This is a goal we fully support. We've worked closely with our local school district and appreciate the challenges they face. And when we enter production, our taxes will directly support school districts and other municipalities, something we are proud to do. However, we do have a number of concerns with the bill as written. First, the TDF program is designed to provide incentives for further investments in existing mining operations. Once we begin operations, we intend to continue to make investments that increase efficiency, improve environmental outcomes, and increase production capacity. Many of these projects would meet the criteria of the program. Second, as most of you know, it's a challenging time in the mining industry, and our facility faces global competition from producers all over the world. At this point, we are still reviewing the bill to understand the impacts it would have on our future investments and operations. Lastly, we respectfully oppose being singled out in the bill as the only taconite producer that's formally excluded from the TDF program. While we are a newer facility, there remains just as strong a case to support investments and improvements to ensure long-term success. We will be paying the same production taxes as other facilities and believe we should be eligible for the same rebates. We would encourage the authors to look at solutions that treat all facilities fairly. I want to thank both Senator Hauschild and Farnsworth for taking the time to meet yesterday. I hope we can continue to work on this bill as session moves forward so we can achieve the dual goals of supporting local school districts and municipalities, as well as ensuring we have a resilient and growing iron ore mining sector. Thank you, Chair Rest.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Are there questions or comments for Mr. Sutton or either of the two authors? Senator Hauschild, do you want a final comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate the opportunity again to present this mineral article. This is an exciting prospect for the Iron Range with the first taconite mine opening in over 50 years. And we need to make sure that our core Iron Range communities, schools, and townships are supported. And I think this is a way that we can do that. And I'm really proud of the bipartisan work that the Range delegation has done in order to come to this conclusion. So, Madam Chair, with that, I appreciate the opportunity and hope we can include this in the ultimate tax bill.
Thank you very much, Senator Hauschild. Senator Farnsworth, Senate File 2766, as amended, is laid over. The next bill is Senate File 4570. Senator Hauschild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I'm presenting Senate File 4570. This provision was brought to me by the community of Proctor, a small city in my district. And basically what they're facing and what I think many small communities are facing all across the state is a circumstance where they are doing everything they can to recruit police officers for their force in their local community. And unfortunately, and at no, no fault of the officers themselves, those officers eventually see opportunities to join larger police forces in larger communities in their region or perhaps statewide. And so these local communities are facing a circumstance where they are training these officers for the first time, spending resources in order to do that training, to get them up to speed on becoming a good police officer. And yet when those police officers leave to join another force, those smaller communities in particular are left out of receiving police state aid. And so they're really spending resources and not being reimbursed through the police state aid program. What this bill is meant to do is reduce the amount of months that a police officer must work for a smaller community under 5,000 people in order to qualify for some police aid reimbursement. So it's really only two sections. The section 2 is the population definition and change, but section 1 basically just changes that circumstance so that for municipalities under 5,000, an officer must be employed for at least 2 months prior to December 31st of the certification year for the police state aid. And it applies to municipalities with a population of 5,000 Madam Chair, for municipalities with a population of 5,000 or more, it maintains the 6-month threshold. So really, this is just a targeted sort of change for smaller communities that face the circumstances that I talked about.
Thank you, Senator Hauschild. There is a spreadsheet showing which communities would be affected by this change. That members have had distributed to them if you have any questions. We have one testifier, Ms. Rich, who is the city administrator for the city of Proctor. And she is online. Welcome to the committee. If you would identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Jessica Rich, and I am the City Administrator for Proctor, Minnesota, which is near Duluth up in St. Louis County. I thank you for your time to testify today, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate remotely. And as I said, I'm here on behalf of the City of Proctor, but really all cities that are under 5,000 and that have a police department. I just wanted to speak to you about this targeted fix for our police state aid formula. As Senator Hauschild said to you, it's specifically reducing the threshold from 6 months to 2 months for small cities. So the police state aid is based on certified officer time. An eligible officer has to work full time. They have to work with the department for a minimum of 6 months in order for the city to qualify for state aid. So what means to us is an officer who's only worked a short period, and it does happen, 6 months or less, we do not get aid for that officer at all. So even one vacancy or a short-time hire can have a financial impact on cities. We're already operating on very lean staffing. We don't have the redundancy that larger departments have to cover those vacancies. And you know, while state aid is it's to help us with PERA, to help us with our retirement contributions. Training does matter too. If you consider that we hire a rookie officer, we spend some time training them. They leave for a larger department, and as Senator Hauschild said, at no fault of their own, they leave for a larger department within 6 months. We've not only had the expense of training them, we've had the expense of employing them, which doesn't include PERA, and then we get no credit for that. So I did do some data for the city of Proctor specifically. I can't speak for other departments, but in a 5-year period, due to staffing instability, the city of Proctor lost about $46,000 of state aid over the last 5 years. Of that, I estimate about 5,000 of it would have been recovered under the 2-month rule. So it's telling us that it's a problem. Even 5,000 means a lot to a small city, and we're missing those those expenses and those contributions we're making for their retirement as the state aid was intended to. Well, this change matters because it's fairness for small cities. You know, in a department where there's only 6 to 8 officers, we like to maintain 8 officers in our department. Losing one officer is 15 to 20% of our staffing, whereas large cities can absorb that turnover, we cannot. Real time in 2021, well, like I said, we like to keep our staffing at about 8 officers, certified officers. In 2021, we had 4 officers that worked for us for 6 months or less. So that brought my attention to this problem and how we might fix it. This is a precision fix. It's low cost to the state. It has relevance on small communities. It does not increase taxes. This aid comes from a percentage of insurance premiums that people pay in the state of Minnesota. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there questions for the administrator? I would draw members' attention to the revenue estimate, which shows no impact on the general fund. It is merely a shift within the whole system of providing police aid, and has apparently there would be 181 local jurisdictions that would benefit from the bill. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just scanning the run to understand better the impact, and you know, there's gainers and losers. I did calculate the percentage of loss to Minneapolis. It's de minimis, so it's not a big deal. So it's not the basis on which I have my question. My question is, can you just remind us why the 6-month standard had been set in the original bill, number one? And number two, I'm not sure how the run, what the factors are that inform the run. Does the run take a look at how many cities have officers that have been serving less than 2 months, or how do we derive who would be gaining resources and who would be losing resources under this formula that informs the run?
Senator Hauschild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Dibble, I am not, specifically aware of how or why the 6-month threshold was originally created. I would imagine it had something to do with some need for there to be continuity on when state aid was provided so that there was enough sort of cost to the community for those officers. And we're kind of saying maybe that threshold was set a little bit too high, but there could be things that I'm missing and not aware of. And remind me your second question, I'm sorry.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Hauschild, hey, I'm just wondering how we arrive at the numbers in the run that show, the certified aid, the projected under this proposal, and then of course, doing the math in the final column G. How we determine F that results in G. So do we know? Is it just based purely
Senator
on
Hellstrom.
size of a city, or is there a factor that assumes a certain tenure of the police force?
Chair Rest and Senator Dibble, I might ask fiscal Mr. Mumm or Ms. Bursch.
Ms. Hirsch.
Senator Dibble, the change in the calculation from current law to this proposal is primarily based on the number of officers that have been employed by the city that meet the qualifications for consideration for apportionment. So in counties, cities, and towns with less than 5,000 population, under current law, under current law for everyone, only officers that have been employed by that municipality for 6 months or more are considered in the officer counts. This bill allows officer counts to be increased by the number of officers that were employed from between 2 and 6 months in counties, cities, and towns with less than 5,000 population. So you'll see in that column D, their number of officer months, so that's the officer counts translated into months they were employed, will either not change or increase as a result of this proposal. Those counties, cities, and towns with less than 5,000 population that do have officers that have been employed for between 2 and 6 months that are being added to that list, those municipalities would experience an increase in aid directed to them, and all other municipalities would experience a decrease.
Senator Phillips. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a general question and then a more specific question, and this might be for your chief. But I'm wondering how, I understand the problem, but I'm wondering how perhaps paid family medical leave, if that is impacting this. I'm hearing all across the district and everywhere actually that absenteeism is up like 30%, 32%. And not to say that it's because of paid family medical leave, but it is a correlation, I guess, with that. And I'm just curious if that's affecting the problem that you're trying to address here with vacancies. How does 20 weeks of paid family medical leave potential impact the problem you're trying to solve today? Or does it? Maybe it doesn't impact it at all.
Senator Hauschild.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Nelson. Yeah, there certainly are circumstances where I would want to make sure that a police officer could take paid leave under this program, whether it's PTSD from their time on the force, whether it's a loved one who might be dying, whether it's perhaps a wife or maybe themselves who are pregnant and having a new baby. We want to make sure that every worker has that opportunity at paid family medical leave. That was the whole purpose of the program. And I would say, not to make judgments, but I would say, you know, police officers have a very stressful job and there might be unique circumstances where they are taking that leave. To your specific question, it's my understanding, and I'm just speaking sort of off the cuff to your question, that the police officers would still be employed by the force. So I don't, unless Ms. Bursch has any clarifying information, it would be my understanding that the aid would not be impacted because they would still be technically an employee of that force under that city. But perhaps I'm mistaken.
Ms. Bursch, do you have any further clarification?
Madam Chair, yes. There are a number of requirements for an officer to be considered a peace officer for purposes of aid apportionment. So they have to have their primary source of income from wages from direct employment by the municipality as a law enforcement officer on a full-time basis of not less than 30 hours per week, employed for a minimum of 6 months under current law, sworn to enforce the general criminal laws of the state and local ordinances, post-licensed, and a member of the State Patrol Retirement Plan or the para-police and fire funds. So an officer would have to meet all of those requirements to be considered in the calculation of aid apportionment.
Thank you. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that does answer my question. And just to be perfectly clear, all of those issues that you mentioned, we want our police, peace officers, law enforcement to be able to take that time off. And you are right. They have incredibly stressful jobs. I'm sure you've visited with folks from your district as well. So that was my first question. My second question is more specific. I'm looking through the runs, and every one of my districts, or law enforcement, sheriffs, cities, are losing money to the tune of $3 million in one case, another $1 million in another situation. And I think, I find that problematic, actually. And while I have a lot of understanding about maybe if it's, I'm not sure if it's our smaller departments that are the beneficiaries of this particular Senate File 4570, I think that it's problematic to be taking money from the other districts. And my inclination is that the formula in the first place probably took some, and maybe our staff can say that, typically when these formulas are put together, like for this police state aid, there is some recollection of the size of the entity or the size of the department. And I'm wondering if that was the case in this situation.
Senator Hauschild?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Nelson. I'm not sure. I'm not sure specifically what the rationale was for the existing structure, like I said earlier.
Madam Chair?
Senator Nelson?
I'd like to ask staff if they might have some insight on that. If it's too difficult to pull up at the moment, I understand.
Ms. Bursch?
Madam Chair, Senator Nelson, I don't know the specific history of how this formula was created, though, I mean, to the extent that more officers are correlated with a larger sized city, this formula would address that.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I remain concerned that you are taking funds from some areas to give to others, and I find that problematic, especially when I note that all of the ones in my district are losing money in the millions of dollars, and it's very necessary.
Senator
dollars.
Nelson, it seems to me that the formula or the distribution is going to be different every year with people leaving the force. Maybe they are your cities that you just referenced. Maybe they're going to have fewer officers, or they don't work for that long, or and so it's not. It's going to be a calculation that's made every year to determine eligibility from the amount of funds that are available. Maybe next year, all 12 of your cities are going to get an increase based on what information they provide that goes into the calculation of the formula. So I think it's not a static thing. It's not a static formula. It's a very dynamic one. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's exactly right, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's the facts. But this particular spreadsheet shows the change from current law, and so I'm only talking about the changes that this bill would make from current law
Okay.
for the districts that I represent. Thank you.
Senator Hemmingson Yager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I'm looking at this correctly, the impact to our communities would be reflected in column G, correct?
Senator Hauschild.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Senator Hemmingson Yager, that's correct from my understanding as well.
Thank you. So I did some quick math on my communities too, and I didn't notice any changes in the millions. They are in the thousands, but when I compare Ramsey County, Washington County, Maplewood, and Woodbury, it's a change of 0.16%. So it's just kind of one of those things, again, when we're looking at the whole of Minnesota, we can attract some police officers a little bit better than some of the smaller towns. So just kind of want to offer that comment as I was reflecting and thinking about this.
So, thank you. Senator Nelson.
Oh, Madam Chair, I need to actually correct my comment. I'm so used to looking at our tax spreadsheets that show costs in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is true, these are de minimis changes. I still would be concerned, though, about the shifting, but they're not to the magnitude that I mentioned.
Anyone else? Senator Hauschild, you have any final comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Again, this is one of those unique bills where a community came to me with a problem or a challenge that they were facing, and sort of a unique set of circumstances that rural communities and small communities are facing when competing with larger cities that have bigger budgets to try to recruit and retain police officers. I am fully cognizant that this bill likely needs more work and needs more sort of research into how this would possibly work, but I do appreciate the opportunity at a hearing, having my community be given the opportunity to express a challenge that they're facing, and I'm going to continue working on this issue as we move forward.
Thank you, Senator Hauschild. Senate File 4570 then is laid over. The next bill on our agenda is Senate File 4634, also brought to us by Senator Hauschild. This is a first hearing for this bill. Is that correct, Senator Hauschild?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Senator Hauschild then has the A1 amendment. It is an author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Senator Hauschild, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Once again, we are bringing a bill regarding the Minnesota Film Production Tax Credit. This is a program that I am personally very proud of. We worked diligently over the last several years to greatly expand this program. And that matters a lot because, in my opinion, I think Minnesota is a state that works so well for the film industry. Whether it's the differences in our geography from agriculture land to big cities like Minneapolis, St. Paul, our suburban and bedroom communities, the Iron Range and the North Shore, which I think could be seen as an ocean, and I know that because my son, every time we drive by it, says there's the ocean. And so we can do that with film and show people the ocean right here in Minnesota, or a lake for that matter. So, you know, I really deeply in my heart believe that Minnesota is a place that would be far better for film than California or Georgia or other countries in this world because of the uniqueness that we bring. But we have to make sure that we're putting our money where our mouth is and incentivizing these producers, these filmographers to do that work here in Minnesota. And it is not just nationwide, a very, very competitive industry, but it's starting to become globally competitive as well. So what this bill does is it doesn't, extend any additional revenue or funding to the program, but it does make modifications to the program that I think would really help us utilize this film tax credit in a more effective way. So, Madam Chair, maybe what I'll do is walk through the sections. Section 1.
Senator Hauschild,
Yes, Madam Chair.
as you do that, would you comment on why there is the increased cost on the revenue estimate? I thought the changes, when I first heard of this, were internal rather than additional costs to the state. Maybe you can come back to that after you go through the.
Yeah, that would be great, Madam Chair, and
we could maybe
I will.
ask we could ask council to comment on
Yeah,
why that
I'm seeing now
happened.
that, I do remember getting the fiscal note. It was, I didn't get a chance to,
Okay,
see it soon enough, so we'll address that here.
go ahead.
So Section 1 expands the definition. This section updates and expands key definitions for the credit. It adds and clarifies eligible positions, so more workers involved in production can be counted towards the credit. This includes both technical and creative roles. The goal here is to better reflect how modern production operate and ensure more Minnesota workers qualify. Section 2 is an expansion of eligible projects. Current law focused primarily on film. This bill adds television programming, which is a major and growing part of the industry, as I'm sure many of you are aware who watch Netflix, Apple TV, HBO Max, or HBO, I don't know what the name is nowadays, but there's lots of different organizations that are expanding into TV. In addition, it modifies the treatment of TV commercials. Instead of just a broad exemption, it sets a clear standard that commercials can qualify if they meet certain spending thresholds and where possible employ Minnesota residents. Section 3 lowers the spending threshold. This is really a key part of the bill. It reduces the minimum required in-state spending from $1 million to $400,000 over a 12-month period. This would allow smaller and mid-sized productions to qualify, not just very large-scale projects. It means more independent films, regional productions, and Minnesota-based creators can access the credit. Section 4 increases the base credit percentage from 25% to 40% for eligible production costs, and this is aimed at maintaining competitiveness. Many other states, Madam Chair and members, have credits that are in this range or higher, and without this change, Minnesota risks losing projects to other locations. Section 5 adds an additional incentive credit up to 45%, so an increase of 5% incentive for projects that meet specific Minnesota-focused criteria. 1, employing a Minnesota resident in a key creative role. 2, filming outside the 7-county metro area. Or 3, hiring a majority of Minnesota residents in below-line crew positions. Again, this ensures that the highest level of benefits go to projects that are deeply rooted in Minnesota's workforce and communities across the state. Section 6 is a technical and conforming change. And with that, Madam Chair, that is the bill, and perhaps we can jump to your question about the fiscal note and ask fiscal to help us with that question.
Mr. Ron?
Madam Chair and members, the costs that are identified are due to the eligibility changes and increasing the base credit percentage. You may recall that the credit is currently capped at, I think, $24.95 million in current law, but the forecasted expense of the credit has never come close to that amount, which is why the sum of the eligibility changes and the credit rate percentage are identified as a cost compared to current law.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Hauschild. Are there questions or comments for Senator Hauschild before we proceed to the testifiers? Seeing none, I invite Ms. Marshik, the president of the Minnesota Film Alliance, and Mandy June Turpin, an independent film producer, to join Senator Hauschild. We'll begin with Ms. Marshik. If you would identify yourself for the record.
Hi there, I am Sherry Marshik. I'm the executive director of the Upper Midwest Film Office, and I am the president of the Minnesota Film Alliance. Thank you for the opportunity, Chair Rest, to testify today. Minnesota's film incentive program isn't working, not because the concept is wrong, but because the structure no longer reflects the realities of today's industry or the needs of the state. Minnesota now ranks in the bottom third nationally for film incentives, and we require a $1 million minimum spend, one of the highest thresholds in the country, while neighboring states like Wisconsin and Illinois have lowered their barriers and increased their competitiveness. Texas recently committed $1.5 billion to this sector. As a result, Minnesota is losing production. First, we propose adjusting the base credit from 25% to 40%, with an additional 5% incentive tied to outcomes that matter to Minnesota: hiring Minnesotans in key creative roles, filming outside of the 7-county metro area, or staffing productions with majority Minnesota crew. Secondly, we asked to lower the minimum spend, $400,000 for film and television and $150,000 for commercials and Minnesota-based script and screenplay projects. For every dollar invested, nearly $7 flows back into our local economies. I like to tell a story about a director who came to Chisholm to make a film. He fell in love with the community, he bought a closed storefront, and reopened it as Black Bear Bakery. Now he's expanded to Hibbing. That's not a Hollywood story, that's a Minnesota story. This weekend, 6 films supported by regional incentive programs will premiere at the Zeitgeist Film Festival in Duluth. They were shot in Ely, in Hibbing, in Chisholm, and Duluth. They bring visibility, they bring tourism, and local spending full circle. These are policy fixes only, no new appropriation. We're asking to help make this program function as it was intended for the entire state of Minnesota.
Thank you very much. Ms. Turpin?
Chair Rest, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Mandy June Turpin. I'm an independent film producer with more than 30 years' experience in the entertainment industry. I also chair the Legislative Committee for the Minnesota Film Alliance. And I'm proud to say I have produced 7 movies in Minnesota since 2022, and in 2024, my husband and I bought a house, and we are honored to call Minnesota home. Film incentives aren't just about attracting big productions. They're about giving local filmmakers the chance to create, compete, and be heard. For many filmmakers, especially independent creators, costs can be insurmountable. Film incentives such as tax credits and rebates lower that barrier. They make it possible for more voices to enter the industry, not just those backed by major studios. But our industry is shifting rapidly. Major global incentives have reshaped where productions go. Strikes, natural disasters, and rapid advances in technology have also transformed how films are made and financed. Meanwhile, some programs, like Minnesota's, haven't kept pace with these shifts. The rules set forth in the legislation are preventing them from being used effectively. High spending thresholds can exclude smaller projects, which build infrastructure by training local crews, supporting local vendors, and growing a sustainable film economy. Without the workforce and infrastructure, it's difficult to attract larger projects later. As a filmmaker, why choose a location where costs are higher, incentive rates are lower, and harder to access, when places like Chicago, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Texas offer more competitive programs? Film incentives should be tools for growth, not barriers to entry. When designed well, they support local filmmakers at every level, strengthen local industries, and encourage innovation. But when they no longer reflect the modern film landscape, they risk being left unused, which is what has happened in Minnesota. In short, film incentives matter, but they have to evolve, because without that evolution, the stories and the local filmmakers and crews behind them will simply go somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions of the witnesses so far? Seeing none, I welcome Mr. Mark Bradley, Chair of Government Relations and Public Policy Committee of SAG-AFTRA. Welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mark Bradley. I am Chair of the Government Affairs and Public Policy Committee of the Twin Cities Local of SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and I'm a longtime performer in Minnesota film, TV, and the commercial industry. I speak in support of the proposed changes to the film production tax credit. As you have heard, the enhancements to the tax credit are an effort to make Minnesota more competitive for film, TV, and commercial production. The film and TV industry is of unique importance to Minnesota labor, as it is a source of many family-sustaining union jobs that directly support film production, such as actors, stunt performers, grips, lighting technicians, writers, directors, dispatchers, and drivers. However, one estimate showed that 2/3 of the jobs created in the industry are in support businesses, such as construction, hospitality, transportation, and tourism. I would also like to stress that this is not a partisan issue. Both deep red and deep blue states have enacted competitive incentives. Our goal should be to create jobs and economic development for communities across Minnesota as soon as possible. The proposed changes to the incentive will open up opportunities for more projects, especially those driven by Minnesota creators, to qualify for the program and grow the industry right here in Minnesota, while still being attractive to high-budget projects to come in and shoot in the state. In short, I urge you to support Senate File 4634 and continue down the bold path of bringing a vibrant film and TV industry back to Minnesota. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments for Mr. Bradley or further questions or comments for Senator Hauschild? Senator Dibble.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I just wanted to express support for this bill and thank Senator Hauschild for letting me come on as a co-author. I think, probably the strongest argument in favor is the fact that this credit is authorized up to a certain amount. We leave quite a bit on the table left unused because the thresholds and the restrictions create barriers for its utilization. So these changes in terms of increasing the eligible costs, to 400,000, 150 in some cases, the amount, the percentage is good, as well as the incentives to use local creative and crew talent. Don't know if I'm crazy about, moving these productions outside of the metro, but, we can talk about that. But yeah, no, these are good changes, and I appreciate the modifications to the credit. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also support this bill, and I just wanted to share a little bit. The history of this bill, obviously, we've improved this tax credit over the years. I worked with Senator Tomassoni to really update how we funded the tax credit several years ago. But I want to thank you for coming into my office earlier this year, because as I was reading the bill, this new bill, Senator Hauschild, I wasn't so sure if I was supportive of reducing the minimum requirement, because I thought, well, we want to have quality things coming into our state that are taking advantage of this. But as I learned and listened and then thought about what's happening today, things are getting more efficient. And there are smaller avenues for productions, but there are bigger platforms for sharing those. And so that's kind of the world we live in today. And I'm really happy to see this update. I think it will make our film tax credit more used. As Senator Dibble said, we want it all. We want maximum use of this. And also, one of the things I learned as we were visiting in my office is I have seen some of those productions on my TV in my family room that you were mentioning, but I didn't realize. And so I just think it's a grand opportunity, and I look forward to seeing more Minnesota productions. And the one thing I just mentioned to members, one of the things that first also got me interested in this was seeing all those Georgia peach things at the end of those productions. And it's like, whoa, why can't we have that in Minnesota? And of course, the discussion was Minnesota is a perfect state. If you think about that, I mean, we have all four, we have beach looking things, that's up in Duluth. We have all kinds of other, I wouldn't exactly call them mountainous, but we have all other, but we have all the different types of landscaping, or landscapes and weather climates that are really conducive, I think, to these more produced right here in Minnesota. So I'm wishing you great success as you go forward with this.
Thank you for your comments, Senator Nelson. Senator Hauschild, anything further?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and specifically Senator Nelson. It made me think we need to make like a Minnesota loon symbol as prominent as the Georgia peach, and maybe this bill will help us.
Agate.
Or the superior agate, yes, that would be also, thank you, good idea. So yes, we will work on that.
Thank you. Anything further? Senate File 4634 as amended is laid over. Thank you very much. We appreciate your support. The next bill on our agenda is Senate File 4749. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Senate File 4749 is for the express purpose of setting up a task force on housing taxes and fees. We have talked a great deal this last year about the rising costs of many things, but especially of housing. And one of the areas we always talk about is the hard costs, building materials and the labor and the land. But one of the things we do not talk about are the soft costs that are involved in development of lots and also building houses. And so this bill establishes the task force, which would be charged with the following items: inventorying all current state and local taxes and related fees imposed on development of new housing. Analyze the cumulative effect of state and local taxes and fees on the net cost of residential construction. Analyze how housing-related taxes are allocated to state, county, and local governments, and make recommendations for legislative or administrative changes to reduce those costs while maintaining essential public services. As if we go to the bill, Madam Chair, basically, Section 1 authorizes the establishment of the task force. Subdivision 2 of Section 1 lists the 16 members, which would involve legislative, state agency representatives, local government group representatives, and members from the Builders Association, Realtors, Multifamily Housing Association, as well as nonprofit affordable housing, tribal government, and 3 members of the public with expertise in municipal finance or housing policy. The task force would be basically staffed by the Legislative Coordinating Commission, and the duties would be, as I earlier outlined, in Subdivision 3. Then the administration, of course, by the Legislative Coordinating Commission. The open meeting law would have to be complied with. There would be no compensation provided for, and the report would be due by February 15th of 2027, upon which the commission would cease to exist. Basically, Madam Chair and members, there's also, from the Legislative Budget Office, there is a cost associated of $176,000. I have been told that this cost could be reimbursed by the Contractor Recovery Fund, which one of its provisions is to allow for research activities as it relates to the effect of items on construction and their cost. And so this could be an item that does not have to be taken out of the state general fund.
So, Senator Weber, would the dollars coming from the fund that you just mentioned, would they need to be mentioned in the bill? That
Madam
fund?
Chair, that's a good question. I have with me today Grace Kelleher from the Builders Association of Minnesota, and I don't know if former Senator Kelleher would have an idea on that or not.
Ms. Kelleher, welcome to the committee. The fiscal note does show $176,000. Is there a more official way of accepting the Builders Association's willingness to take on that cost?
Madam Chairman, I believe you are correct, and we would have to put in a line that said it comes out of the Contractor Recovery Fund. These funds are generated through licenses that licensed builders have to pay every year, and it depends on how many houses you build. It presently has, I believe, $7.2 million in it, and it generates $2.9 million every year. So there certainly is enough funds. And we've done things in the past where we've promoted construction and licensed builders with billboards and a PR campaign. So this money has always been tied to builders and residential housing. And I think that it's a good fit.
Senator, thank you very much, Ms. Kelleher. Senator Weber, your bill needs to go to the Committee on Finance. I would suggest that you have an amendment prepared at that next stop.
Sure.
That would respond to the need to cover the cost from that contractors builders fund.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any questions for Senator Weber or Ms. Kelleher? Seeing none, Senator Weber moves that Senate File 4749 be recommended to pass and be referred to the Committee on Finance. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion prevails, and the bill will be referred to Committee on Finance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
The next bill is Senator Drazkowski, and with Senate File 5032. Senator Drazkowski has author's amendment. Senator Drazkowski authors the A4. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion prevails, and the amendment is adopted. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Senate File 5032, we are titling it the Take It Back Act. I will go through the bill and then maybe describe some of the motivations behind it. As we look at Section 1 of the bill, it allows the Department of Revenue and Financial Crimes and Fraud section of the BCA to share data. The data on 1.17 and 1.19 is investigative data, which is confidential and non-protected data. The reference on 1.19 in Chapter 13 is criminal investigative data. If it's active, it's confidential, protected, non-public. If it's inactive, it's public. Section 2 of the bill requires the Department of Revenue to share information with the Office of Inspector General should we adopt that and it pass into law this session. Lines 2.4 through 2.6 suggest that if it doesn't pass, that won't be adopted as part of this if this is adopted into law. Section 3 of the bill provides that if fraud is committed by an organization, Department of Revenue can impose tax liability on the officers and actors of that organization. Section 4 of the bill allows imposition of 100% tax penalty where a conviction has not yet occurred. Section 5 is the kind of the meat of the bill, if you will, members and Madam Chair. It provides the definitions, the first tier rate, public program, and public fraud amount. You can read those definitions there. They're fairly short. Subdivision 2 provides for the imposition of 100% tax on the program fraud amount. And on lines 3.2 and 3.1, you'll see a term that I haven't heard before, but Madam Chair, you probably have, called jeopardy assessment. And it allows the department to do a jeopardy assessment. I'll read, for members' benefit, what a jeopardy assessment is. I'll just read subdivision 1 from 270C.36. If the commissioner has reasonable grounds to believe that a taxpayer is about to leave or take property from this state with the purpose of evading tax, or that the collection of the tax will be jeopardized by delays incident to other methods of collection, the commissioner may immediately declare the taxpayer's reporting period to be at an end and assess the tax due by issuing an order under Section 270C.33. So what this would declare then on 3.2 and 3.1 is that this would qualify for and be a jeopardy assessment that could be exercised by the department. Subdivision 3 relates to data sharing with, again, with financial crimes and fraud section of BCA. Subdivision 4 provides that the agency that the fraud was allegedly happening in or happened in will certify to the Department of Revenue the amount of the fraud, and the Department of Revenue will rely on that certification from the agency. Subdivision 5 provides that the money collected under each of these parts of the bill will be deposited into a tax relief account, and then an analysis will be done on December 15th of each year to figure out how much is in the account. When it goes over a threshold of that would amount to, Madam Chair and members, 0.1% or more of the first tier income tax, that money then would go to the general fund, and the income tax would be reduced by that 0.1% or that 0.1% plus the increment above 0.1%. Subdivision 6 establishes the ability of the Financial Crimes and Fraud section of BCA to share pertinent data with DOR, again, as referenced in section 1 of the bill. That's the bill, Madam Chair. There's a lot of interest and energy in this bill. In the Senate, we have put together 2 clones as well. I'll read the senators. We got 14 of them on the bill, 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans. Drazkowski, Heinzman, Lucero, Holmstrom, Gruenhagen, Kroon, Housley, Clark, Seeberger, Gustafson, Zhang, Fa, Fate, and Rest. In the House, there's 22 Democrats, 48 Republicans on their combined clones and original bill, total of 70 members. A lot of interest in the bill, Madam Chair and members. I don't have to go through all the details of the fraud, Madam Chair, that we have, but in addition to the fraudulent actors that we've been reading about that are being caught by law enforcement, there are people who receive kickbacks and bribes that are indirect accumulations of fraud money by people that are not, as far as I and others can see, being prosecuted so far. And of those collections that have happened in the law enforcement realm of this activity, anywhere from, so for instance, Feeding Our Future, 2 different analyses suggested of the $300 million that has been stolen in Feeding Our Future, 66 million or 7, I think the fiscal note says a higher amount, 72 million or something like that. About 25% of the money is being collected in the criminal arena now. This would allow the Department of Revenue to collect this money and get the taxpayers' money back. That's called the Take It Back Act. I'd encourage your support for the bill. I think the Department of Revenue is available if members have questions of them as well.
Okay, are there questions or comments for Senator Drazkowski? Senator Drazkowski, I think this is a very thoughtful effort, as you know, and I signed on to the bill. And clearly there is a lot of support for continuing it. Senator Drazkowski, do you have a motion?
I don't have one before me, but
Senator Drazkowski, I'm asking you for a motion for the future of this bill. What is your motion?
Well, I would like it to go to general orders if we could, Madam Chair.
Senator Drazkowski moves that Senate File 5032 be recommended to pass, thereby sending it to general orders. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion prevails. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Senator Drazkowski, we have one final bill, and that is Senator Miller. He had to step away for a couple of minutes. He will be returning, so we're just going to take a brief recess. Senator Miller brings us Senate File 5101. There is an author's amendment. It is the A4. All those in favor of the A4, please say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Miller, Senate File 5101.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My apologies for the slight delay. I had a school group upstairs that was running a little behind schedule, and I had to quick say hello to them. So unless there's objection, Madam Chair, what I'd like to do is go through the bill section by section, and then I'll give a brief overview for the rest of the people to understand what's actually in the bill, and then we'll hand it over to our testifiers.
Wonderful.
So we'll go through, starting with Section 1. Subdivision 1 simply provides the definitions of the creation of this new sports and events reimbursement program account. Subdivision 2 creates the actual program account. Subdivision 3 specifies what events would be eligible to receive funding. Subdivision 4 is the administration of the program. Subdivision 5 lays out the allowable expenses. Subdivision 6 includes the rulemaking. Subdivision 7 is the reporting, and this is a very important section because with the amount of fraud that's going on right now, specifically in some state programs here in Minnesota, we want to make sure that the reporting is proper, and this includes audited financial statements, which is very important. Section 2 talks about the deposit of the revenues into the sports and events reimbursement program account. Section 3 adds a reference to the deposits from Section 2. Section 4 talks about the calculation of deposits of revenues into this new account. Subdivision 2 of Section 4 determines the incremental increase of tax receipts. Subdivision 3 is the deposit of revenues, and that requires the Commissioner of Revenue to deposit these funds into the proper account. Section 5 talks about the distribution of those revenues. Section 6 talks about the deposit of revenues into the sports and events reimbursement program account. And Section 7 also talks about the deposit of revenues and requires the Commissioner of Revenue to deposit the different sales taxes into these accounts. Same thing with Section 8, that talks about the liquor gross receipts tax. Section 9 talks about the cannabis tax, and then Section 10 requires the Commissioner of Revenue to deposit the sales and motor vehicle rental fee tax. So that's section by section, and now for the many people who are probably watching online and listening, I'm gonna share what's really in the bill for most people to understand. So Senate File 5101 would create a sports and events reimbursement program fund to provide a permanent funding source to attract large-scale sporting events to the state of Minnesota. Together with Minnesota Sports and Events, Minnesota has successfully bid on and hosted several successful events over the past few years, including the Big Ten's men's and women's basketball tournaments, which had a combined economic impact for the state of Minnesota of $53 million. The U.S. Olympic team trials for gymnastics had an estimated economic impact of over $75 million for the state of Minnesota. And most recently this winter, the World Junior Hockey Championship had an economic impact of about $75 million. This summer, the great state of Minnesota will be hosting WWE SummerSlam on August 1st and 2nd which is projected to have a statewide economic impact of over $100 million. And Minnesota is a finalist to host the 2028 NFL Draft, which could generate over $200 million of economic impact. Now, the economic impact is great, but I think it's also important to point out, what does that relate to when it comes to local and state sales tax revenue? So the legislature appropriated $6 million for the 2024 U.S. Olympic team trials, and that generated approximately $5.7 million in state and local tax revenue. The legislature appropriated $5 million to the World Junior Hockey Championship. They also included some additional resources to add to that $5 million, but that event generated about $4.7 million in state and local tax revenue. And now, while the state has been very successful in attracting these large-scale sporting events to Minnesota, unfortunately, there are many more events that we have missed out on due to the lack of a permanent funding source. And this bill would help fix that. There are many other cities and states that have permanent funding sources, and that's why we lose a lot of events to cities like Indianapolis, Dallas, Las Vegas, New Orleans, Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, and et cetera. This bill, Senate File 5101, is modeled after what the state of Texas does, but we put a little bit of a Minnesota spin on it. So this is what we're calling the Minnesota model, and it's even better than what they do in Texas. So in other words, this is an account that would take the sales tax revenue that is generated from one-time large-scale events and put that into a fund that could be used to bid on future events. This is a performance-based model, and the Minnesota Sports and Events Reimbursement Program will only receive funding if events are hosted in Minnesota. Therefore, the more events that are brought and hosted here in the state of Minnesota, the more money would be generated for this fund. It truly is a win-win for the state of Minnesota. And the best thing is, when it comes to the fiscal consideration, there's no fiscal impact to the state because they don't get the revenue unless the events are hosted here in Minnesota. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it over to our testifiers unless there are any questions specifically for me from the committee.
Any questions for Senator Miller? Seeing none, I welcome John Klinkenberg, the Chief Operating Officer of Minnesota Sports and Events. If you'd identify yourself, please, for the record. We welcome your testimony.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is John Klinkenberg. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Minnesota Sports and Events. I'd like to start by saying happy NFL Draft Day. Today is the first day of the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. But I'm here to express strong support.
We did that on purpose.
I'm here to express strong support for the Sports and Events Reimbursement Program. Minnesota Sports and Events is the nonprofit sports commission that focuses on attracting and hosting major events that deliver a significant economic return for the entire state. These events drive tourism, fill hotels, generate restaurant and retail activity, and produce meaningful state and local tax revenue. They create jobs, support small business, and bring visitors from across the country and the world to the state of Minnesota. The impact is real and measurable. By 2027, with your prior legislative support, our events will have generated nearly $400 million in economic impact since 2020, benefiting not just one city, but communities across the entire state. Recent and upcoming events include the 2024 Olympic Gymnastics Trials. We did the men's and women's Big Ten basketball tournament, the 2026 World Juniors Hockey Championships, and upcoming, of course, SummerSlam. And in 27, we have the NCAA prelims, and in 28, we'll be hosting the NCAA Wrestling Championships and the Transplant Games. We don't just host events, we build legacy. Every event we bring to Minnesota is paired with a community impact. That means investing in youth, supporting education and health initiatives, and ensuring these benefits reach communities across the state. For example, we had WWE superstars visit Olson Middle School. At the Women's Final Four, we helped deliver the first ever Indigenous land acknowledgement in championship history. And with World Juniors Hockey, we executed 27 community initiatives across the state. But the most important thing I want to leave with you today is that Minnesota is losing out on events due to a lack of a funding source. We are one of the only sports commissions in the country without a consistent, ongoing tool to help attract these events. Because of that, we have already lost out on more than $430 million in economic impact. These are real opportunities that would have come to Minnesota. Most notably, we just recently lost the opportunity to host the 2028 Olympic trials for gymnastics and a brand-new Big Ten women's volleyball tournament that would have been held at the Target Center over the Thanksgiving Day weekend. These are real, in many cases, we make it to the final round, we have the venues, we have the expertise, and we have the track record. But we lose for one reason, and it's funding. The challenge is growing, but the momentum is real. Because of our success, more organizations want to bring their events to Minnesota. We're looking at the Women's FIFA World Cup, the NFL Draft, Women's Rugby World Cup, U.S. Figure Skating Championships, among many other events. The demand is here, the opportunities are there. But without a funding mechanism, we will continue to lose these type of events and the economic impact that comes with it. This bill directly addresses that problem. It allows us to take the tax revenue generated by these events and reinvest it into securing future events, creating a sustainable, performance-based model that only works when the state benefits. Without this tool, we fall behind. With it, we can compete and win. I thank you for the time, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klinkenberg. Are there questions or comments? Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question about the definition of the qualifying events. Is it?
Senator Dibble, could you point to where that language?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm looking at, starting on line 1.13, the definition of event, and then there's a long list of events that qualify potentially for this initiative. Would those be limited to these listed events, or is it possible to, or maybe I'm just missing it, a set of criteria? The reason I'm asking, Madam Chair, Senator Miller, is because I can think of about 6 or 7 just off the top of my head that pertain to my community that have big national tournament gatherings. I know there's one listed here, but there's at least 6 others that are multi-sport and or focused on a specific sport. So is there like a criteria around size, the number of participants, et cetera?
Madam Chair and Senator Dibble.
Miller, there's 29 events here. How come there aren't 36?
Madam Chair and Senator Dibble, and we'd be happy to look at expanding that list, but the intent of this and also the reason why the revenue estimate is 0 is because this is meant to attract events that aren't currently going on and more so one-time large-scale events. So for example, the Twin Cities Marathon folks approached me, and I'm very supportive of the Twin Cities Marathon. I'm a runner myself. The challenge with that is that's already an existing event that's going on an annual basis. What we're trying to do is we're trying to attract those one-time large-scale events to come to Minnesota. Those are the events that you have to actually bid on, and we're competing with other cities and other states. But if members have other events that aren't listed here that do require a bid and that travel to other cities, states, or in some cases other countries, we'd certainly be open to adding those to the list.
Senator Dibble, would you mind if I responded first and then I'll come back to you?
I just have 10 seconds. I was just going to say, Senator Miller, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about national leagues that have either annual or once every 4-year events that locate in other cities that we could bring potentially to Minneapolis or to Minnesota.
And Madam Chair and Senator Dibble, I think perhaps maybe we could work together with Senate Council to come up with a definition that could include those type of events and add that into the bill, and I'd certainly be open to that.
Yeah, Senator Dibble and Senator Miller, the amendment could be not have to name everything, but to be, to have some qualifications, including that it's a new event or it's not an established event or whatever. And I don't think that would be a difficult amendment. We won't do it right now, but if you would work with council and show it to Senator Dibble, I would appreciate that. I think it would improve the bill and be more appealing to, I mean, I know this is a large group of events, but there are others.
Absolutely, Madam
that aren't
Chair.
here now.
Senate Council has been fantastic to work with on this, and I'm sure the group would be super excited to continue to work with me on a definition, and Senator Dibble and others.
Yes. Okay. We'll go to Lou Nanny. He is on the remote.
Yes, Madam Chair. Lou Nanny sent in a video, so I'll play that right now.
Hi, this is Lou Nanny.
Is it on the screen?
Chairman, rest and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm here to respectfully ask for your support of the Minnesota Event Reimbursement Program that provides dedicated funding to attract and host major sporting events here in Minnesota. These events are not just games, they are powerful economic drivers. They bring visitors, generate revenue for local businesses, and create meaningful statewide impact that extends well beyond the event itself. A great example is the recent World Juniors Hockey Championship. That single event generated an estimated $71.5 million in economic impact and produced $4.7 million in local and state tax revenue. More than 240,000 people attended the games and FanFest, filling hotels, restaurants, and entertainment venues across the region. For 10 days, Minnesota was also on the international stage as the tournament was broadcast around the world, showcasing our state, our venues, and our ability to host world-class events. But the impact didn't stop there. We also developed a 12-month statewide legacy program that included 36 community events across Minnesota. These are the kinds of long-term benefits that strengthen our state and reinforce our identity. Because of this success, USA Hockey is eager to bring another major event back to Minnesota. But the reality is we are at risk of losing these opportunities. Other states are making significant investments to secure these events. And without a competitive funding mechanism, we are falling behind. To date, Minnesota has lost out on more than $430 million in economic impact directly due to the lack of funding. This bill is about staying competitive. It's about ensuring we continue to bring world-class events and their economic and community benefits to Minnesota. With your support, we can continue to develop these opportunities for our state, our businesses, and our communities. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nanny. The next testifier is Dr. William Campbell, who is a principal at Olson Middle School. He also is testifying via video. Welcome to the committee.
Ready? Yep. All right. Chair Rest and members of the committee, my name is Dr. William Campbell, and it is an honor to serve as the principal of Olson Middle School right here in North Minneapolis. And I'm here to share some real examples of events that, like these, that were brought to our school that creates meaningful and lasting and have impacts on our community through Minnesota sports and events. Recently, a few months ago, our school had the opportunity to host these WWE stars with the student assembly, and there were giveaways. They didn't just show up, but they connected with our students. They spoke to our students specifically about having a learning disability, about being a multilingual learner, about being a female in some male-dominated areas like sporting events, etc. And they talked about how they face adversity through many opportunities. For many of our students, that's their daily reality. And hearing the messages from some people who they know from TV and who are superstars really connected with them. After the assembly, the superstars spent time with our students. In particular, they went to our classroom with our students with special needs, and it was a memorable event. I remember one of the superstars from Japan had never seen a school locker before, and he was really touched by that. But the arm wrestle with the students just spent time with the students, helping them build their confidence, their connection. It was just so exciting and to see that happen at our school. Oftentimes, public schools face a lot of negative press, but this event was covered on multiple news channels, and we were grateful. And they gave our students and our community something to celebrate and to be proud of. Now, I'll admit, back in the day, I was a huge WWE fan myself, and what I saw that day went far beyond entertainment. It was just impacted. Students still talk about it to this day, even though it's been a number of months since that happened. These are the kind of opportunities that come to our school when major events are hosted in Minnesota. They extend far beyond the venue of our schools and our neighborhoods, and they touch the lives of young people who often don't have an opportunity to connect with these superstars. So I strongly urge the committee to support the Sports and Events Reimbursement Program bill so we can continue to bring these amazing experiences to the often underserved students in Minnesota. Thank you for your time and consideration, and come visit us at Olson in North Minneapolis whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Our next testifier is Jess Graba, owner of Midwest Gymnastics, and you have a very popular, I don't know what you call him, athlete who is associated with your business, and I hope that you will identify her even as you identify yourself, sir.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rest and members of the committee for the opportunity to speak today. Yes, my name is Jess Graba. I am the owner of Midwest Gymnastics and the coach of Olympic gold medalist Sunisa Lee, which I'll call Suni because I never call her Sunisa, but okay. I've spent my career helping athletes pursue dreams at the highest level, world championships, Olympic games. And I just want to share what it meant to have the Olympic trials here in Minnesota. Just a side note, when we did get the announcement that it was going to be here in Minnesota, super happy at first. The closer it got, became a lot more terrifying because you're in front of all your family and they're actually here, not just on TV. But then when we were actually on the floor, it was, for the venue, it was actually really close. So it was really, and I know you mentioned that you were on vault side. There was one of the guys, he mentioned that they were on the vault side, and the vault felt like you could touch the crowd. And I think that part of it was just so energizing. And it's something that we'll never forget. And we were I was really hoping to see if we could do it again in '28. We missed out on that, but so for me and Suni, competing at home in front of this community was just incredibly special. It was something most athletes never get to experience, and most coaches as well. Normally, you're they show you for 10 seconds, and then that's about it. And you you absorb wherever you're at, but it's mostly hotel rooms and venue and the competition venue. Here, it was everybody got to experience Minnesota the way I know it, in kind of like home. The energy, the pride, the support, all was a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and not just for us, but also for the rest of our gymnastics community. We have well over 30 clubs just in the metro area. So, and then we have clubs all the way up through Grand Rapids and down through Winona and all throughout the Minnesota that all participated. So it was deeply meaningful for SUNY especially, I think, too, to compete here as a proud member of the Hmong community. And seeing her on that stage in her home state meant so much to that community and all across Minnesota. It showed young people, many of whom never get to see themselves represented on TV or on stage, that they belong on the biggest stage in the world too. We were also proud to be part of the broader community and effort surrounding the event. One of the highlights was spending the day at the Mall of America. SUNY connected with a bunch of young athletes, much like he was stating for the Olson community. For us to touch Special Olympians, young kids, 5-year-olds, all the way up to 15, 20-year-olds, even adults, that they just think you're a person, or they just think you're something special on TV, but they get to talk to you, they get to know you, and it's more community-driven, and that was what the Mall of America experience was a lot about, and that kind of impact the kids still talk about today, and a lot of my athletes as well in the gym. The results themselves speak for themselves. The event generated $74.8 million in economic impact, $5.7 million in state and local revenue, tax revenue. There was more than 200,000 people that visited FanFest and the city of Minneapolis throughout that time. And then we had over 1,000 gymnasts and dancers from ages 8 to 80. Phil Nicollet Mall, Nicollet Avenue for a choreographed performance to kick off the trials. And that was an incredibly, it was fun to watch. I know I have 4 children, they were all participating in it. And they did that instead, and they were a little late to the actual competition, but they enjoyed it so much. In fact, at the end of the competition, the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, actually commented and regarded this Olympic trials as the best one they've ever attended, and they actually made the comment that they thought it was such a cool performance and venue that they wanted to take it to their and focus, try to model the next Olympics or 2 after it, because they thought it was just run so well. But despite that success, we did lose out on the opportunity to host the 2028 trials, and that was mainly due to the lack of funding. So that's why I strongly support the sports and event reimbursement program. These events bring significant economic benefits, but just as importantly, they create lasting community impact and inspire future generations. We have proven Minnesota can deliver at the highest level. Now we need the tools to stay competitive and keep these opportunities coming. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. The last testifier is Dalton Danielson.
You two can step away. Maybe he's not here. All right.
Doesn't look like he's here, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I do, Madam Chair, I'll just add one more thing, that Wendy Blackshaw, who is the CEO of Minnesota Sports and Events, wanted to be here today. John did a fantastic job on behalf of Minnesota Sports and Events, but Wendy is currently in Pittsburgh advocating the best she can to bring the 2028 NFL draft here to Minnesota. So she's working hard on that, which is why she could not be here with us today.
Thank you very much, Senator Miller. We will lay over Senate File 5101. I urge you to draft an amendment that is suitable and agreeable, if you will, to Senator Dibble.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Appreciate your time.
So Senate File 5101 as amended is laid over. Members, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, April April 28th. Senator Nelson, I'm going to call you out for a minute here. Everyone on the tax committee voted on the floor yesterday to send the nominations from the tax court to the committee, and we are having the confirmation hearing of the two judges, Delapina and Bowman. They will be the first item on the agenda on at 8:30 on Tuesday. Senator Nelson voted no, not to have this hearing. No. You
Madam
made
Chair.
your choice with your vote. Everyone else voted yes. And the two judges very eagerly, I would say, at the first call, said they would be happy to be here. And we are, even before we voted on the invitation. And I will be handing out the vote on that to show who the other 10 or 11 people were that did not want us to have a confirmation hearing. Other than that, we have a couple of other bills. It's our intent to have the, to move the bill out of committee on Thursday. Okay, so we'll go up, marching up to that. Okay, and with that, we're adjourned. Oh, and if you would like to have a cake, anybody here in the room, you can come up to my office suite and help me celebrate my birthday.